Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if you are missing chances to be a good person every single day, or if morality is just for big dramatic moments? Well, this new study dives deep into that very question. Picture this ordinary day. You are having breakfast, you are at work, you are chatting with friends. Do these normal everyday moments offer chances to be moral, or is morality something reserved for heroes and villains in movies? Previous research, like studies by Hoffman and Attari, suggested that people hardly ever report doing something moral or immoral in their daily lives. They found that in everyday conversations, talk about morality was super rare, less than 5%. And in social media posts, even rarer. These findings made it seem like morality is mostly absent from our everyday lives, only popping up in extreme or unusual situations. But the scientists behind this new research had a hunch. They thought maybe the problem wasn't that we don't have moral opportunities, but rather how we ask about them. They proposed that the word morality itself is too abstract, too vague. It is hard for us to pinpoint exactly when something qualifies as moral or immoral in our daily lives. Maybe we associate it with religion or with really serious stuff like stealing or murder. So these researchers decided to try a different approach. Instead of asking about morality in general, they looked at specific moral virtues like honesty, kindness, fairness, and patience. They wondered if thinking about these concrete virtues would reveal that moral opportunities are actually far more common than we thought. This is the core idea that drives their whole study. So, how did they test this idea? They ran 4 studies involving over 1,600 people from North America, Germany, and China. They used 2 main methods to collect data. One was the Day Reconstruction Method, or DRM, which is like a fancy diary where people recall their day, break it down into episodes, and then answer questions about each part. The other was the Experience Sampling Method, or ESM, where people get pings throughout the day asking them about what is happening right now. First, they had to figure out which virtues to ask about. They looked at a bunch of lists of virtues from different psychology theories and even asked AI. They narrowed it down to 12 core virtues: compassion, courage, fairness, forgiveness, gratitude, honesty, humility, loyalty, patience, respectfulness, responsibility, and wisdom. They picked these because past research showed that people generally think these traits are important for judging someone's character. In Study 1, they used the DRM method with over 300 adults in North America. For a week, participants reconstructed their days. And for 6 random parts of their day, they were asked, during this episode, did you have the opportunity to be either more or less virtue? They could pick from a list of virtues or say none applied. And here is what blew them away. Participants reported that at least one of the 12 moral virtues was relevant in a whopping 77.1% of their day. That is way higher than the previous estimates of morality being relevant less than 10% of the time. When you think about it in terms of specific virtues, morality seems to be everywhere. But not all virtues showed up equally often. The study found that responsibility, patience, and gratitude were seen as relevant over 30% of the time. That means in almost a third of their day, people felt opportunities related to being responsible, patient, or grateful came up. On the other hand, forgiveness and courage were mentioned much less. Under 10% of the time, this tells us some virtues are like constant companions in our daily lives, while others are more situational. Study 2 wanted to confirm these findings and also directly compare how often people saw opportunities for specific virtues versus opportunities for morality in general. They used the ESM method with students in North America and Germany, pinging them throughout the day. Here is the crucial part. While these students still saw virtue opportunities in about half their experiences, around 50%, they only considered these opportunities to be moral opportunities less than 6% of the time. This is a huge gap. It means that even when people are recognizing chances to be honest, kind, or patient, they don't necessarily label that moment as being moral. They just see it as an opportunity to be patient, for instance. This strongly supports the idea that the abstract term morality is less useful for people in recognizing everyday opportunities compared to concrete virtues. SHTML Figure 1 Swine's CML frequency of opportunities for virtues, Studies 12, and Morality, Study 2. Study 3 dug a little deeper. It explored whether people see more opportunities for being good virtues or bad vices. They had participants report on opportunities to be either virtuous or vicious, and sometimes both. And get this, participants reported having opportunities to express virtues almost 4 times more often than opportunities to express vices. So, even though a situation might logically allow for being dishonest, people overwhelmingly reported seeing an opportunity to be honest. This is really interesting. It suggests we might be wired to notice and focus on the positive moral pathways more readily. Or perhaps we are motivated to see virtue opportunities even when a vice might also be an option. Again, when it came to the general terms moral or immoral, people reported these less than 7.4% of the time in study 3. So even with the added context of vices, people still didn't frequently label their everyday experiences as moral or immoral. The concrete virtues were just much more apparent. Finally, study 4 looked at whether these findings hold true in a different culture, specifically China. They used a similar DRM method and included some virtues that are particularly important in Chinese culture, like filial piety and civility. The results were pretty consistent. Chinese adults reported opportunities to express at least one virtue about 85.9% of the time. That is even higher than in the North American samples. This strongly suggests that opportunities for virtue are indeed abundant across cultures. However, there was a notable difference. Chinese adults did report opportunities to be moral much more often than the Western samples, clocking in at 27.8%. While still lower than the opportunities for specific virtues, this cultural difference suggests that the term morality might carry a broader meaning in some cultures, encompassing more everyday norms. But even here, the opportunities for specific virtues were significantly higher. So what is the big takeaway from all these studies? The core message is that morality isn't rare and confined to extreme situations. When we frame it in terms of specific virtues like patience, honesty, or kindness, it becomes clear that moral opportunities are incredibly common, appearing in over half of our daily experiences, and sometimes much more. The reason seems to be that we're much better at recognizing concrete virtues than the abstract idea of morality. Morality might feel too big, too complex, or even have other connotations that make it hard to apply to everyday moments. But a moment where you can choose to be patient with a slow cashier, that is easy to recognize as an opportunity for patience. This is a really important finding. It means we tend to see the upside, the chance to do good, much more than the downside, the chance to do bad. There are a few reasons this might happen. Maybe we see being good as the norm, so even considering being bad feels unlikely or irrelevant. Or maybe when we face situations where we could be bad, we subconsciously lean towards seeing the opportunity to be good, protecting our own self-image. This is a great practical insight. It tells us that seemingly mundane virtues like patience and responsibility pop up constantly. Things like forgiveness and courage, while incredibly important, might be less frequent in our day-to-day. This could shift how we think about cultivating character, focusing on the virtues that we encounter most often. In the end, whether morality feels common or rare really depends on how we think about it. The studies show that focusing on specific virtues reveals a rich landscape of moral opportunities that are easily missed when we only think about abstract morality. It suggests that to understand everyday morality better, we should talk about it in concrete terms. This research is a great example of how framing can change our perception. It highlights that we're not just passive bystanders in our daily lives, but active agents grappling with moral choices, often more than we realize. It encourages us to be more mindful of those small moments where we can choose to be virtuous, because they are abundant and they matter. What this study can't tell us is why people choose to act on these opportunities or not, or if they are even aware of their moral actions afterward. It focuses on perceived opportunities, which is a great first step, but the actual behavior is another layer also. While they did a great job of comparing cultures, there are always nuances that a single study can't capture. Future research could explore how culture influences not just the perception of morality, but also the value placed on different virtues. They could also look at how people actually act on these perceived opportunities. I think this research is super valuable because it offers a more realistic picture of our moral lives than previous studies. It gives us a practical lens through which to view our own days, noticing those gentle nudges towards kindness, patience, and responsibility. It reminds us that being a good person isn't just for big, earth-shattering events, but for the quiet, everyday moments too. So what do you all think? Do you find certain virtues come up more often in your day? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more science insights, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.